What you need to know about financial planning and living wills. Next on Behind the Headlines.
This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to Behind the Headlines. I'm Charlie Greenewald. I'm Senior Fellow for the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy, and we want to welcome all of you during the holiday season. We want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, and a Happy Kwanzaa. And we're so happy that you were able to join us at this time, a special time of the year. And I'm joined today by my co-host, and I want to welcome her back, Maura Donnelly. Maura, welcome back to the show. It's so nice to have you. And you are with
Donnelly Consulting.
Donnelly Consulting, and we're so happy to have you back and
Thank you
join
for having
us.
me.
You're welcome. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about radio and a little bit about the voiceofpa.net and a little bit about financial planning. And to do that, we have Doug Keegan. Doug, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Doug is the host of the Life and Money Show on WHYL Radio, AM Carlisle. And we find that Doug is part of the changing face of radio. We find that about 15 years ago, AM radio was on the verge of extinction, and then somebody by the name of Rush Limbaugh put together a national network of radio stations and developed a talk show on national politics. Well, now we find there's a whole series of national shows about finance and financial planning. And Doug, you're part of that movement, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Well, when did you begin your show in Carlisle, and what made you do it? How do you have the time for it?
Well, how do I have the time for it? That's a very good question. It's basically finding the time to do it. In my career, I have noticed that there are a lot of folks out there that do not understand all the moving parts surrounding their financial life, and it was always a passion of mine to get information out to the public in general, how they can build their financial security, one baby step at a time, if you would. But we've been on the air for a year now. We are on a locally owned radio station, unlike a lot of the nationally owned radio station programs. So our focus is really Central Pennsylvania and the issues surrounding Central Pennsylvania. And of course, when it comes to money issues, you can be in Iowa, you can be in Montana, you can be in Florida, it doesn't matter. But in general, we try to bring on people who have businesses locally that are tax accountants or attorneys or auto and home insurance specialists, people who are in the community who are working with folks here, and then we can just talk about various issues that it comes to people's money. So we've been on the air at 960 WHYL for a year now, and I love it, and we're going to continue to bring this information to the public.
What's one of the most common questions you get regarding financial planning?
Well, that's
from the average person.
Will I have enough money to retire?
Okay.
That's probably the number one
question.
issue. And the major driver behind that right now is because the baby boomers are nearing retirement. This year, January 1st of 2006, was the first time that the baby boom generation is reaching the age of 60. Between now and the next 25 years, we're going to see a huge demographic shift in this country. Around 37 million folks are retired right now. Within 25 years, we're going to have about 70 to 75 million people retired in this country. That's a huge demographic shift. So again, the baby boom generation is driving that conversation, and retirement is probably the biggest topic on their minds right now as they prepare. Their kids are now in college or graduating from school. Now they're thinking, gee, do I have enough for myself and for my future?
Well, did they wait too long to ask that question of themselves?
Well, we consider them the sandwich generation. They've got their parents who are living longer and who need their help, and they've got kids who are going to school but not leaving the home until they're 30 years old. So they're the sandwich generation in that they've got people on one end pulling them financially, on the other end pulling them financially. And so they're waking up at the age of 50, 55 and asking themselves, well, do I have enough for my own long-term financial security? So that's the biggest question we get on the radio station program.
What is your background, Doug, that led you into financial planning and offering financial advice on the radio?
Well, I've been in the industry now for 8 years. Before I got involved in the financial services industry, I worked overseas as a junior research analyst. I was involved with a corporate advisory firm in Warsaw, Poland, and basically we helped large state-run industries privatize. And it was typically in the manufacturing area, steel, coal, oil and gas, shipbuilding, textiles. But in addition to that, we would help young startups find capital so that way they could buy machinery, know-how, brainpower. And as a result of that, I became passionate about personal and individual issues because a lot of these startups were just young entrepreneurs who were looking to make a living and in addition to grow a business. So that fascinated me. When I made the transition back to the States, I wanted to focus on personal finance, and as a result, I've been in the industry for 8 years now.
Mm-hmm. And your show is not only on WHYL AM, but you're also part of Susquehanna Valley Center's voiceofpa.net. So your show actually is up there for anyone in the world to listen to on the internet. And actually, I know we've gotten very good response at the voiceofpa.net to your show. All your shows are there and they're archived, so our viewers can go to the voiceofpa.net and simply click on your particular show, and they'll be able to access all of them.
Yeah, and each show is detailed, so that way you know the topic, the guest, and what I try to do with my radio show is this. There are a lot of money talk shows out there that will talk about investing, and a lot of times that can be a dry topic. So what I try to do is make my show user-friendly and talk about what really matters in our lives. For example, I have an auto and home insurance specialist. How many of us actually review our homeowner's insurance policy? Not very often, because often it is escrowed with our mortgage. So it just renews each and every year. Well, we need to review that, update it. We have a tax account law. There were 2 pieces of legislation signed into law this past year. The Tax Increase Prevention and Reconciliation Act, which was signed into law April 17th, and the Pension Protection Act, which was signed into law August 17th by President Bush. Those are 2 huge pieces of legislation, and people need to know what was in there, but more importantly, said in a language that they can understand. So that way they know, oh, now I know why they did X, Y, and Z. And so that's what we try to bring across. Things that are basic, things that people can understand and people can utilize in their daily lives. So that's a different conversation than most of the money talk shows out there.
Well, I'm sure you're hoping as we head into the New Year celebration that a lot of people are making a New Year's resolution regarding their financial house.
Right.
What are some of the basic pieces of advice that you would give somebody to get their financial house in order in 2007?
What I would recommend, number one, is if you're married, sit down with your spouse and have a conversation about money, because oftentimes opposites attract. You have the spender and you have the saver. Well, communication is key. So if you're married, communicating about your finances, number one, is key. Number two is pay yourself first. We live right now in a consumer-driven society where for the first time last year in 2005, we actually had a negative savings rate in this country for the first time since 1933. So we are consumers. The rest of the world loves that fact because we're buying all their stuff and we're driving the world's economy. But the point is, at some time, we have to save. So I would recommend, even if you do have debt, begin a savings program. The best place to start is at your employer. Usually you have a 401k or 403b if you work with the state. So look at saving first, look at saving through your employer, and then really begin a discussion as to your budget, living within your means, paying down your consumer debt. Starting there would be an absolute wonderful start for the new year. And then finally, what I always mention on my radio show program is what I call the spirit of contentment. Even though you can hear me say each and every week, do this, do that, you need to feel content with what you have in life, the material things that you have in life. You can't be chasing after your neighbors and what they're getting. There's this tendency to do that. So what I would recommend is also be happy with where you are in your life, be happy and content financially where you are, but just take these baby steps and understand that it's not going to happen overnight, and just enjoy and build your quality of life in the meantime. That's key also financially.
That sounds like a great New Year's resolution.
Yes.
The spirit
I
of
think so.
contentment.
The spirit of contentment.
Great.
What you are also, Doug, involved with a program that it tries to instruct young people about finances and financial planning. Do you want to talk a little bit about your involvement with that and tell us what it is?
Sure. It's called the Pennsylvania Jumpstart Coalition, and it is a statewide, all-volunteer, nonprofit organization. It's dedicated to improving the financial literacy of Pennsylvania's youth. Right now, we don't have too many programs, K through 12, that help kids understand what it is that they need to know about money. 30, 40 years ago, there were no such things as credit cards. Your grandparents, for example, would have balked at the fact that you would finance a toaster or a microwave. They never would even think about that. So today we have to educate kids because not only are we faced with debt management issues, but government and businesses doing far less for us than they used to. Pension programs are being frozen across the manufacturing base in this country. Social Security is in question. So we have to educate children that they have to be responsible ultimately for their own financial goals. And this program, the Pennsylvania Jumpstart Coalition, is attempting to introduce financial literacy among the youth in Pennsylvania.
Is it a statewide organization?
Yes, we have state-run higher education institutions, we've got banks, we've got credit unions, we have individuals like myself, we have the Office of Financial Education. In fact, Hillary Hunt is going to be on this program in April, heads up the Office of Financial Education, which is part of the Department of Banking. And April in Pennsylvania is Financial Literacy Month, and she heads up the Pennsylvania Jumpstart Coalition. And so the tendency is not to think about these things until you're 50 or 55. We want to have kids start thinking about how to take control of their money at an early age.
Where did the idea for that come from, and sort of who's responsible for directing that program?
The Pennsylvania Jumpstart Coalition is a proud affiliate of the National Jumpstart Coalition for Personal Financial Literacy, and it is based out of Washington, D.C., and again, it's a nonprofit organization, and it is an organization that's committed to raising personal financial literacy across this country. And you can go to their website at www.jumpstart.org. That's jumpstart.org, or you can visit Pennsylvania's website is pajumpstart.org. That's pajumpstart.org.
Okay, and what will they find there?
Oh, tons of information regarding literacy, educational programs, links to other websites. It's just a ton of information, in particular for educators. If you want to get involved with this program, if you have a community outreach program, as you know, in Pennsylvania, the school districts basically decide what will be on the agenda in the school system within their district. So if you are active within your school district, check it out, because I think these are wonderful programs that you can begin to introduce in your school district to see if you can raise awareness about financial literacy among kids.
Have you ever had the opportunity to go into a school yourself?
No, I haven't. I did teach for a while at the college level, and so I have a passion for education, and so I want to see these programs be successful.
That's great.
How do you make, as we wind up this segment, how do you make children, how do you share with children the whole notion of debt?
Savings, the notion of savings.
That's savings.
Yeah, but the fact that, I'm struggling with this issue with my very own children.
Yeah.
And how do we show them that savings is the way to go, and that debt can be daunting and can be quite an obstacle to their future progress?
Well, this is funny. It's interesting a chance to ask that question. My wife is Polish. And in Poland, they have the piggy bank, just like in the United States, they have the piggy bank. But what's unique in Poland is you can't open up the piggy bank. You have to
hole in the
actually
bottom of
break it. But here in America, we have the hole. And so that is a unique analogy. But yeah, you don't open the piggy bank. You say to your children, this is a long-term savings program. And what's unique in Poland is you have to break the piggy bank in order to get to the money. That's interesting. But what you do is you, again, set those boundaries for your children. Give you a good example. Let's say if you give them an allowance, you say to them, spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. But at the end of the day, there's no more money. So that way they begin to learn that there are limits to our resources. Our wants, our desires are unlimited, but our resources are limited. So we have to figure out that fine balance.
And right there's the basic law that underlies all of economics and political science,
Correct.
and I spend the first week of every class trying to impart that to my students. Doug, it's been wonderful having you with us.
My pleasure.
Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you.
And we look forward to having you back in April.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll be right back with the second segment of Behind the Headlines.
Harsco Corporation is proud to support this program and the goal of building stronger communities through informed public discussion and greater understanding of the matters that shape our lives and our future. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. By Weber Incorporated, a leading manufacturer of hardwood lumber and wood products. The Highway Equipment and Supply Company, Central and Northeast Pennsylvania's authorized distributor